In these videos, we've talked a lot about saving point data as shapefiles, but shapefiles can also be used to save lines or polygons. Now, one particular use of polygons for the microanalytical community is to create essentially petrographic phase diagrams, such as this. And the great thing about this kind of approach is that one can create polygons and associate metadata with those polygons, and then color those polygons according to what petrographic phase has been assigned to them. And so in this way, one can quickly create textured representative maps of regions that are easily viewable in papers to the reader. This video will be in two parts. In the first part, we'll talk about creating polygon layers. And in the second part, we'll use a polygon layer to generate an atlas in the atlas generator. And that is very good for appendix creation. To demonstrate how to work with polygon layers, we're going to be using the tutorial dataset. We have in the tutorial dataset these 4 shell fragments, and today I'm going to create a polygon layer that represents those 4 shell fragments as well as the space surrounding them. Now, there are a few ways one can go about this. I'm going to show you my preferred method, and it starts with creating a new empty polygon layer. So we go to this button here. We need to give this file a name and save it in a location. So we're going to call this polygons, or whatever name you feel fits. And we're going to want to make sure our geometry type is set to polygon, because again, shapefiles can be multiple different kinds of geometry. And then we have this new field button. Now this allows us to create new columns into which we can input data onto our new layer. As it currently stands, we just have one column, and that's this ID column. So let's add a layer called material, and we're going to have it be text. We're going to limit it by 80 characters, and we'll hit add. So now we have 2 columns available that we can input information into. And then we hit OK, and we have this new layer titled polygons. Now, in order to actually create new items in this layer, we need to turn on editing. So we go over to the toggle editing button, and now all of these buttons here, these polygon editing buttons, become available to us. So to start with, let's create an add polygon feature. And let's just encircle our whole map in a big square. So 4 buttons, and then I'm going to right click to finish. I'm going to leave the ID blank, and the material will be void. Now, we can't see anything. So let's change the display properties such that it is partially opaque. And to do that, we go down to Layer Rendering drop-down menu in the Symbology tab of the Properties menu. And we're going to change the opacity to, I don't know, 30%. Yeah, that looks okay. All right, so now if we open the attribute table for this polygon layer, we just have one item, no ID, and the material is void. So what we want to do next is delineate out these shell portions from this initial layer. And to do that, we use this fill ring button. So this allows you to pull out new polygons from within an existing polygon. Now, this doesn't need to be exact for the purposes of the tutorial, so I'm just going to quickly click around until I have most of the dimensions of the shell fragment represented there. We're going to call this shell fragment 1. And I'm going to hit OK. And now if I go to the Identify Features tool, you can see I can select these two areas independently. We'll do this with the other three shell fragments and create their own layer items for those particular regions. As part of the video, I'm going to show you how to generate what's called an atlas, or a multi-page representation of a map. Now, you'll see that we've delineated out our four shells, which are in green, and we have everything else in this sort of pink color. And it may have occurred to you as you were selecting out these shell polygons that by going into the symbology tab of the properties window, you could actually classify things in a categorized way and get those different colors. And that's what I did. That's how I got those different colors. So now that we have our polygon layer, we want to go Project, New Print Layout, and we need to give our new print layout a name, so I'm going to call this one Atlas. And we get a blank sheet much as before. Now, what I'm envisioning in my head is I would like one window at the top that will have the shell that we are looking at the current moment. And I would like another map window in the lower left. And I would like this one to be the overview map. So this will more or less stay put, and this will change with every page of the atlas. Now, I don't like the fact that this is at a slight angle, so I'm going to go over to this map rotation box. Let's try 5 degrees. Nope, we want this to be the other direction, so we'll try 355 degrees. Oh, that looks just about perfect. We'll add a scale bar to this, and again, we want the scale bar unit to be in map units. And you know what? Let's have everything be in millimeters because things are rather large. So because our map is in microns, we need to multiply this by 1,000. So, and that's a little hard to see, so let's add a background and a frame on that. Helps it pop a little bit better. Yeah, that's good. And I'm going to add a scale bar to this one as well. So again, map units, multiply by a factor of 1,000, and millimeters will be our label. Background, frame, resize so it looks more natural. And there we go. Now what I would also like is I would like the region of this map to appear on this map so the user or the reader knows exactly where they are. And to do that, I'm going to go down to the Overview menu. I'm going to hit Add a New Overview, and we're going to have our map frame be Map 1. And now you see that area is outlined in red. If you want, there are other options here. You can choose a pattern like so, with the garish colors of the background. That's a little hard to see. Let's just do that. It's good enough for now. We can always go back in and change it around later. Now finally, we want this to be an atlas, which means we want every page to show a different shell. So to that end, we go into this Atlas tab and we hit Generate an Atlas. We want the coverage layer to be this polygons layer. And then we want the item properties for this map unit. We want to go down and we want to check Controlled by Atlas. And if we want to see what that looks like, we can go up to this button at the top called Preview Atlas. And now you'll notice that as I click through, it's going to zoom in on the region of each of those polygons. And of course, there's some editing and rejiggering one could do to make this nicer. If one doesn't like this initial zoom out, you could delete that big regional polygon. But overall, I'm happy with how this has turned out. Now, one other feature I just want to show before we wrap up is that you can also display data on these atlases. So I'm going to add a new attribute table item to the layout. I'm going to hit OK. And of course, this is very big. This needs some editing so that it is more readable. But what we can do is we can also have this table be controlled by the atlas. So, and to do that, we can select Show Only Features Intersecting Atlas Feature. So now, as we select through, you'll notice that on shell number 2, we have all this data, and shell number 3, we have no data at all. Well, lots of other items to play around with here, but those are the ones that are most useful, I think. And I'd encourage you to explore and play around with this and find things that you like about it in terms of workflow.